Welcome back to another Fallout 76 video, folks. My name is Dr. Wasabi. Fallout 76 is by far one of the biggest Fallout games in the entire series. And what it lacks in mediocre story, it makes up for in beautiful environmental storytelling and hundreds of unmarked locations. In today's video, we will be looking into another handful of these unmarked locations in Fallout 76. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Our first location sits deep into the rather aptly named Savage Divide. For this location, we will need to fast travel to the Sylvie and Sons logging camp. Fast traveling there, we can always find a disgusting rabid pack of glowing mongrels. Avoiding these luminous doggos, we can follow the trail that sits to our right, and along the way, we can find one of the most bizarre random encounters in the entire game. Walking up, we can see the body of a man, and next to him is a note and a strange pipe. Investigating closer. Now, folks, I have no idea what this is in reference to, but my god, is it funny. Moving on from here, we need to head southeast from both the random encounter and the logging camp. Now, the brush is thick, as is custom for the Savage Divide, but when we crest the final hill before the cliff drop, we find a glamping site. Moving closer, we can find what looks like a camper's last moments. A female skeleton sits in a foldable chair. A second chair sits also next to her alongside a delicious Nuka Cherry and a cooler filled with randomized food items. Now, it does seem strange that this lady would camp at such a beautiful site by herself. It is possible that she was with her partner, whose skeleton may have fell off the cliff or dragged off by wildlife. Either way, it's not a bad way to go given the circumstances. One theory behind this location is that maybe this is one of the workers or perhaps the wife of one of the loggers at the Sylvie and Sons logging camp. Given its proximity, it would make sense. Though, with that being said, I guess it's best that we'll leave this skeleton to its scenic rest. Speaking of scenic views, our next unmarked location matches in both scenic beauty and sits on the other side of the Savage Divide, neighbouring the ash heap. Now, for this location, we will need to fast travel to the mountaintop bed and breakfast. Now, when we arrive, a sunset glow bathes the mountainside and building. Now, say what you want, but Fallout 76 has one of the most beautiful world spaces of all the games. Not getting caught up in this scenic beauty, we need to head north to northeastwards of this B&B. Heading through the brush, we can find a set of concrete stairs of all things. Now, folks, this leads to a sprawling set of picnic areas and scenic spots hidden from view behind this bed and breakfast, and it is here where we will find our first unmarked location. Heading up the stairs, we can find a breathtaking view of the Appalachian wasteland. Mount Blair sits in the background, the rockhound above it sitting silently at its peak. Heading rightwards, we find a picnic scene. It seems these two youngsters were having a bit of a picnic when the bombs dropped. Investigating the site, we can find that even the lunch pails are being named, which it seems that the lady was called Clara. Now, around their skeletons, we can find some fancy lad snack cakes and cram, but other than that, it's best to leave these lovers to their rest. Moving up the mountain and the stairs, we can see a player has set up their camp here. Now, given the location, I can't fault the choice. Now, heading back around, we can find something of a wraparound log path that goes to a other side that we didn't explore yet. Heading back around, we can find a bench area and a pretty bizarre scene at one of these park benches. Moving closer, we can find a female skeleton clutching a garden gnome and surrounded by flowers. This is by far a far cry, no reference intended to the wholesome scene we saw earlier. Now, my best guess is that this woman loved gardening, and in her final moments, she wanted to spend her last breaths with her favourite garden gnome. Moving up higher on the concrete staircase, we can reach the peak of this hidden gem hidden behind the bed and breakfast. At the peak of this little picnic staircase, we can find a small gazebo that sits on the area's peak. Looking out, we get a great view of the mountainside, and we can almost spot the sky mansions of the various pre-war mining families here in West Virginia. Looking over the railing, a female skeleton sits on the cliff's edge, a brush in one hand and what seems to be a minimalist painting. Now, this whole scene is surrounded by paint cans and splats of blues, yellows and green paint. Now folks, this is by far my favourite unmarked location here, as it really tells a more unique story compared to the previous two we've just seen. It seems that this lady has just finished a painting by the time of the Great War. Perhaps this artist is responsible for the many modern high-tech paintings we see in Appalachia. Now this is an interesting theory to be sure, but please tell me what you think in the comments. Moving on from our cluster of locations, we need to follow the road past the mountaintop bed and breakfast. Following the road, we reach an absolutely destroyed bridge. Looking over at the rubble, we can find a spectacularly destructive scene. It appears that the train below the bridge has derailed, pancaking and crushing the cars further down the hill. Was this because of the bombs, or perhaps something that happened pre-war? Let's find out. Now folks, I'm going a bit off script here. This place is infested by Yao Guais, so please be careful. Going down the track, we can find the contents of these train cars spilled open, with some containing consoles and tech, and outside some are a surprising amount of skeleton hitchhikers. Now we can find one couple of skeletons further up the track nearby a Yao Guai that we had to dispatch. Further down the road, we can find a bulldozer sitting on the end of the track, indicating that this was most likely a pre-war event, which really begs the question, what happened here? Looking over the cliff edge on the track further down, we see that many of the army branded cars have spilled over the edge, some cars being wedged into the rock face. Now, miraculously, the car that had the other group of skeleton hitchhikers has sat just by the cliff edge. The car itself is home to two skeletons with an assortment of candied snacks and food. Now folks, if I was a betting man, the destroyed bridge and train cars may be connected and are most likely the result of a landslide just before the war. Now folks, it is seen that some vehicles just off the bridge are seemingly buried in mud alongside several train cars that are also buried, which leads me to believe that this was a pre-war event. Now as for the hitchhikers, maybe some advantageous pre-war beatniks thought they could spend a night in one of the trains before the rescue teams dig out the derailment, only for the Great War to commence the day after. This would explain the bulldozer and skeletons further down a field on the tracks. With the bulldozer, it does seem that maybe they got some of the equipment out just before the Great War started and didn't really have time to dig up the derailment. I think either way, we'll leave this ruin to the bears before more of them come back. Now our next location is something I like to call the Billboard Patriot. For this unmarked location, we need to fast travel to the scenic overlook southwards of the mountaintop bed and breakfast. When we arrive, we can find some ruined cars and an outhouse, but for this location, we will need to follow the road southwards, making out a billboard in the distance. Moving closer. Now we can find a campsite and a blown out bus, and the place is also crawling with Mothman cultists, so let's clear them out. Now folks, this unmarked location also acts as a random encounter spawn point, and I had the luck, well rather unluck, of having both Mothman cultists and a Ogre facing off. Now unfortunately I did get absolutely destroyed by the Ogre, so for the rest of this encounter we will be sneaking around to see what's happening. Sneaking past the Ogre, we can see a skeleton sitting on a billboard. Using our camera, we can see that the skeleton is sitting nonchalantly on a deck chair with a pre-war American flag draped across the billboard ramparts. Now, what is interesting here is that this billboard has seemingly changed over time. The last time I came here, it was a billboard for powdered snow ski equipment, but when I came here for the recording, the signage had disappeared. Now, maybe the signage for the billboard changes for each random encounter. Who's to say really? If anyone has seen this, please say so in the comment section below. Now, the campsite below the billboard is pretty unremarkable. There's some fresher settler bodies sitting in chairs and camp tents sitting by the billboard. But the real question is, how did this guy get up here? One theory is that maybe he was a serviceman and decided to spend his final moments in a blaze of patriotic glory and greeted the apocalypse in his deck chair. Now, saying that, who's to say really, but I suppose we'll leave the man and his flag to the elements as his Ogre absolutely shreds everything that it touches. And there we have it, folks, another day, another set of unmarked locations. I really appreciate the support for this series, as you guys wanted another location video over everything else, so it is really appreciated. Easter is a very busy period for me, so if you can, please like this video and subscribe. My name has been Dr. Wasabi. I bid you a most pleasant good morning, good evening, or good night, and of course, as always, God bless. And I'll see you in the wasteland.